I'm a co-founder of Poetica. I'm here with James, who is at the back, who's one of my co-founders, who is going to be helping me with this demo this evening. It's a pleasure to be here to not pitch you. That's great. And also to introduce you to Poetica. So at Poetica, we are trying to build the best way for you to get feedback on writing, whether that's from friends, colleagues, or anyone else who can help. So I'm going to try and show you how that works. So James is going to help me with this here. So Poetica is a browser-based text editor that allows you to give and receive feedback as if you've printed your work off and marked it up with a pen. So this is a newsletter that I am planning on sending next week to all of our Poetica users. And James is going to help me make it a little bit better. So with Poetica, you can make insertions to the text. You can comment on stuff. James is going to tell me that I'm a terrible writer, which is always very useful. I always write too much, and then he cuts it all out. You give me a big cross out, James. Tell me I'm totally wrong about something. So the nice thing about this, so that you can see there are annotations to the text that just looks like you kind of written or crossed something out. But the special thing about Poetica is these aren't actually annotations. They're suggested edits to the underlying text. And that means that I can accept or reject them. I'll accept this one just so you can see how it works, right? So what we're trying to do here is build a really intuitive way of giving feedback on text, something that's far more easy to understand and simple than track changes of any kind. But that's not all we're trying to do. The second thing that's special about Poetica is that we are approaching the version history of your draft completely differently. So we have built a way for us to remember every single edit that you ever make to a piece of text, individually and in relation to everything else on the page. And that means we can do something that we're calling infinite undo. So this is the kind of first public outing of infinite undo, because we've not properly launched it yet. And what infinite undo means is that you can, say you make a bunch of edits to your text, rather than hitting undo, 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 and having to go back through time in the way that Apple Time Machine makes you kind of go back through time in a linear fashion. What you can do with Poetica's infinite undo is pick any edit that you've ever made and reverse it in any order that you want. And I can bring that back. When we first built this in the office, I spent about 10 minutes just kind of undoing things, redoing them. So what we will eventually come up with, you can see on the left-hand side of the screen here, that this is really an activity stream that describes kind of what's happening to your text. And you can see here that you can also chat in it and you can make other comments. And the idea is that this means you never have to create, version 1, version 2, version final, this version, no, really, this is the final version. We're trying to make it super easy for you to find, search through, and retrieve any idea that you've ever put in your work. Right now, you can either use Poetica all on your own, or you can use Poetica in a team. So we've created Poetica domains where you can get yourcompany.poetica.com, and you have a shared drafts list where you can work on everything in one place with your colleagues. So we, in a rather meta way, have poetica.poetica.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
This looks like a really awesome bit of web person sort of software. I mean, I'm a lawyer, I deal with draft versions all the time. So sort of coming at it from that angle, I'm just wondering, can you lock stuff off? Or if you undo sort of halfway through the document and start again, and then realise you want to keep half of what you've done and reject the rest of it, how do you sort of navigate through it? It sort of seems to me like you go back 10 steps, but actually you still want to incorporate some of the stuff you've got existing with.
That's a really great question. So we haven't actually built any of that stuff yet, but the fundamental technology behind Poetica allows us to create those kind of subtleties. So for example, I'm sure many of you use GitHub in here. You can fork a Poetica document and say, okay, I'm stopping this version here and I'm going to create a new version with or without all of the draft history. We haven't got to kind of thinking through all of the exact functionality that we want, but all of the history across every single Poetica draft that's been ever made exists, and it would be great actually to hear more about the kind of functionality that you like as a lawyer so that we can kind of design that better as we go forward. But that is exactly those kind of subtleties that we spend a lot of time thinking about.
Very quickly, do you have a monetization? How are you going to monetize?
So the idea is that we would charge people a subscription fee to have a Poetica domain. So if you, and it would just depend on...
Kind of, well, does Slack do that? One of the other ones do
It's
that.
exactly how Slack do it. They do, we do talk a bit too much about like how great Slack is and like what can we just copy from them, and that is one of the things.
I think it's a seriously awesome idea. I was thinking a cool way of maybe monetizing this would be you have users, like you said, is that ask for feedback button where you kind of post something out to the community. You could have kind of premium community members that you could pay to proofread your stuff. Because I personally, like, I'm dyslexic, but half my team kind of seem dyslexic at times. And we're sending stuff around all the time, and no one's ever happy. And it would be, and we actually do use like Elance or whatever, and we send stuff off. Okay. Just because when you look at your own stuff, you never spot the mistakes. It's that kind of classic thing. And if you could just kind of say, post it out to a community of people who use the same system, it would just be. I personally think that's an amazing. I think it's incredible already. So well done.
Thank you. That's a really fantastic idea. I think we need to experiment more with that kind of thing.
Well, thank you. I think that's all we have time for. So please give it up for Anna and James at the back with Poetica.